familia es bilingüe y bicultural.
And both my parents are from the Philippines.
Papá de mi papá era de Puerto Rico.
Well, my family's from India.
Y la madre de mi padre era de Czechoslovakia.
Is from the Dominican Republic, and they're also white.
Mis padres son, mi mamá es del Ecuador.
My mom came from Hong Kong. My dad came from Guangzhou.
My family originally comes from Ethiopia.
Y mi papá era americano, pero de ascendencia judía, así que Rusia y Lituania.
So, my father was born in Russia, and he came here when he was about 9 years old.
And they're from Poland, Russia, I think little parts of like Turkey, somewhere like over there, those places. Also, like, I'm American, I was born here. And my dad's side, he's from Ecuador, so I'm Ecuadorian.
On my mom's side, my mom's mom comes from Italy, and her dad comes from Liberia, so making me mixed. And then on my dad's side, he's African American.
That's a good question.
So, a lot of people think that I'm African American because of the color of my skin.
Yeah, I would say I'm American, but I also have a lot of Indian values instilled in me.
I'm Irish. I'm British. I'm German.
Well, Chinese and American, I guess I would have.
Yeah, so I'm kind of all from Europe.
Me identifico con muchas culturas. También me identifico con los latinos, pero los latinos biculturales, porque esa es nuestra herencia.
De la cultura dominicana. Basically American and Italian.
Of course, consider myself American.
Sí y no. Yo creo que mi hogar es Nueva York. Nueva York es mi hogar y no mucho todo América, no realmente.
I do, yes, because I've always lived here, and all these generations of my family have always lived here.
Americana? No, soy dominicana.
Well, it is my home because, I live here. But there is like a part of me where it kind of feels like a second home.
Oh, ¿por qué? Bueno, soy americana porque nací aquí, porque vivo aquí.
Sometimes because I do live here.
A veces no estoy orgullosa de lo que hace el gobierno o lo que hacen los otros americanos.
I do consider American at home because that's kind of where I was born, and that's where most of my family was born.
Pero sí soy americana.
Some of American culture I disagree with.
I definitely consider my home because I've lived here all my life, but I don't completely consider the whole entire country my home.
It's who I am. It's where I was born. I haven't ever known anything else. How can I disagree or go against what I am?
Yo soy. Yo soy.
Yo soy.
Yo soy.
Nosotros somos americanos.
My father is half African American. His parents met in SNCC, a civil rights group fighting for African American rights in the 60s, and he grew up in Harlem. From food to music to authors, my father has been in touch with his African American culture. I am African American, but sometimes it's hard. People, more than once, have told me that I am not black, that I couldn't possibly be, because I do not fit their image or their stereotypes. I know I don't look black, but does that mean I'm not? Similarly, immigrants are pulled over on the street every day, even if they are American citizens, because they do not look like the stereotypical image of an American. as though if they do not look like an American, they couldn't possibly be one. It just goes to show you people are closed-minded. People like to put labels on things, and when people don't fit the labels, they are uncomfortable because people are afraid of the unknown. The Japanese have a word for every generation of American. Ise, first generation, are immigrants. Nisei, second generation. Sansei, third generation, and so on and so forth. I am Gosei, fifth generation. Even though I am American through and through, Japanese culture is a big part of my life. In my food, the fairy tales I was told when I was younger, in the way we take our shoes off in the house, the chopsticks we keep next to our forks in the kitchen, the Buddhist gathering of incense in our funerals, the festivals we attend such as the Sakura Matsuri, the Cherry Blossom Festival, or Obon dancing. For me, it's sometimes hard because I feel so identified with my Japanese roots, and yet I'm only half Gosei at that. I've never been to Asia, I don't speak the language, neither do my parents or my grandparents. So I don't feel entirely at home with my African American side, I hardly identify with my Polish side, and I feel Japanese, but I don't look like it. It's like when you're a bit of everything, you don't entirely fit anywhere. However, I was brought up Japanese and African American, and I have some small Jewish traditions. I'm standing in front of one of the places where I feel most connected to my Japanese roots. It's really just a Japanese food court and a supermarket, but even though it's silly, I've always loved it beyond reason. And it certainly isn't as though all my Japanese pride comes from food. I don't define a country solely by its traditional meals. But, at the same time, I do think food can sometimes tell a lot about a country. For instance, you can tell Japan is an island by the abundance of fish in everyday meals. You can see their occupation with beauty in the way they present their dishes, which are all colorful and prettily prepared. My point is that, when you think of Japan as a country, you shouldn't be picturing sushi or anything like that, because food doesn't make the country. But when you see sushi, you should think of the years of tradition and Japanese culinary art that it originated from. Now, I've been eating at the supermarket, Mitsuwa, since before I could talk. I love it because not only is the food delicious, but I'm always surrounded in Japanese culture, Japanese people, and Japanese language. I love that. I think that a lot of times when people think of American culture, they're thinking of apple pie, fireworks on the 4th day of July, those quaint suburban American dream type homes that were so popular in the 1950s, the ones that came with a little yard and a picket fence, and a grill on the patio and plastic on the furniture, TV dinners, etc. Yes, these are examples of American culture, but they represent a very narrow view of American culture. Those pretty suburban homes in the 1950s were only available to certain Americans, mostly white Americans, and yet they are the image of the American dream. So the so-called minorities are sometimes perceived as less American than white Americans, even though many African Americans and other minorities have had family in this country as long as white Americans or before white Americans, even though the natives were here first. I think America is a salad bowl. Everything in it is mixed up and together and in harmony, but like in a salad, a carrot still has the beautiful orange color and sweet taste of a carrot. And the lettuce still has its crunch and the tomato is still tomato. Everything comes together, but still, everything holds its own uniqueness, and it all belongs here. It's the same with this country. We all have immigrant blood, every single one of us. It's part of who we are. But also part of who we are is the American identity that binds us, and it binds us all together.
My dad's side is mostly European. It is also where I get my Jewish heritage. My grandparents live across the hall from me, so I visit them all the time. There I celebrate Hanukkah all 8 nights. We also celebrate Passover either at my grandparents' house with my entire family or at my cousin's house. I am Polish, Egyptian, English, Greek, but I was born in America. I do not know Polish, Egyptian, or Greek. I am an American because I was born in America. I celebrate Jewish holidays like Hanukkah, Passover, Yom Kippur, and Rosh Hashanah. However, I don't celebrate all of them, and I didn't have a bat mitzvah. I do take pride in my identity because I'm proud to be part of these cultures. I love it when I tell people where I'm from. They're surprised, but then that shows that a lot of people judge you on how you look.
America is a place of all cultures. Every block in New York has variations of Chinese, Japanese, Indian, and Italian foods, at least. America is the cultural center of the world. Every person has a background of different ethnicities. All people who live in America are culturally what they choose to be. You define yourself, and no one else can say otherwise. All Americans enjoy food from all over the world. If you eat pizza, you're eating food from the Italian culture. America is special because it houses people from all around the world, with mixed cultures. In fact, the American dream and philosophy is all about equality. Therefore, I believe that all people and cultures should be created equal, especially in America.